What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning The Dr. Vibe Show. And also, I'm a certified empowerment coach, president of Express Your Vibe Coaching and Communications. As always, I like to say you're blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles, and a solution for someone's problem. Apologies for the delayed start time. There's something called Windows updates that was playing some fun with my computer, and I think I was thinking about doing this on my laptop, but I said no, let me get to the finish line and able to get this conversation going. So for those who don't know the gentleman that's on the screen, I've been blessed to meet and get to know him and get inspired and encourage and education from him through the Blab platform. And a few months ago, he said, we got to do a show called Our Father. I said, okay, but then he had a little twist to it. He said, H-O-U-R, Father. I said, fantastic. And this were the days when he didn't have a schedule. That's an inside joke.
Yeah,
that's an inside joke. Yeah, but now he's been doing a lot of positive things, and I'll let him tell you what he's been up to just recently, especially with a great online platform that's going to grow and be big called the Black Narrative. I am very blessed as Father's Day approaches, and I don't see too much stuff online conversation-wise about Father. I said, well, why don't we do it? If not us, who's going to do it? Mm-hmm. So I'm very blessed to have Askia Jones on the conversation. How you doing, Askia?
Doing great, man. Doing great. I'm glad we were able to connect and do this show, man. I know we've been talking about it for a while, so it's a great opportunity to be able to finally have this conversation.
Absolutely. Well, for those who don't know you, why don't you share a little bit about yourself?
Oh man, where do I start?
The beginning.
From the beginning. Well, I was born on a farm. No, just kidding. I'm a brand guy. Most people ask me, what do I do? I'm a brand guy. Take a lot of pride in that. I've been in the design, marketing, and advertising industry for about 20 years now. Right now, I currently am now getting into the publishing side, the digital publishing side, creating digital platforms where we're going to be specializing in user-generated content platforms. One of the first platforms we just launched is a platform called Black Narrative. Right now, the user-generated component hasn't really started yet. We're now just beginning as a curated platform where we're curating content. We want people to get an idea of the type of content that we're trying to produce. And now, probably in the next couple of months, we're going to be now starting to aggregate actual original content. And we're going to take it further on from the digital space into video and other arenas. And this is just one of many that we're going to be working on, but we're focusing on this one right now. So we're really excited about it. We're really trying to reclaim and reinvent our narrative, which is what the concept is about, really trying to introduce and reintroduce to some of the millennial generation, and even some generations before, some of the great contributions that we've made in society and culture that we think have been lost, throughout the way, particularly as it relates to what the media introduces, what the media shares.
Excellent. And when did that platform launch officially? Askia?
Charles, how you doing, sir?
Definitely, Askia, you got a lot of stuff, positive stuff going on, but you wanted a few months ago to talk about this subject. And those who are on watching, you're more than free to jump in because we're discussing. Well, you know what? I'm gonna let Askia drive the conversation tonight because I know there's something in his head and his heart that he wants to share about in regards to Our Father. The only thing I'm gonna ask him is why the title with the H instead of no H.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting when we had that conversation, it actually just popped up. Let me be completely honest with you. I think being a creative person, sometimes we pride ourselves in creating these different axioms or lexicons or wordplay. And but it's funny when I begin to really think about it. I knew I did it for a reason because I knew the word hour represents time. And I know when we use the word from a faith-based standpoint as it relates to our Father, which is a part of a prayer, the HOUR to me was very important because as a father, I think one of the greatest things we can give to our children is our time. That's one of the greatest gifts we can give. I think sometimes we focus on, um, we as fathers, we really want to be that provider. We want to be that person that, pays the bills and quote unquote brings home the bacon and do all those things that we as men have been kind of groomed and taught we're supposed to be. But along the way, when we're doing these things, we lose out on being available and being accessible to our children. So we find out down the road all these things we're doing and we take pride in as far as providing for our family and our children, that the one thing we look back and we realize how much time, how much valuable time, how many moments did we miss along the way, really, trying to be that great provider, trying to be the person that can, always give our kids those things that we didn't have growing up. But, when I really look at it, I realize the greatest thing we can give to our children is of ourselves, our time. Having that availability and accessibility at their disposal when they need it the most.
Good point, man.
We're joined.
Hey,
We're joined
Charles,
on the
how you
conversation
doing,
by Sir
Oh,
Charles
wow,
Carey. How you
great,
doing, Sir
great. Askia, it's
Charles?
been a
Sir
while. Good
Charles.
to see you again, my brother. Yes,
man?
sir.
You as well, man. Always, you as well.
I was listening to what you were saying, and I have children
So
and grandchildren actually, and I've been finding that I've been doing a lot of parenting to my kids, and they're adults. And actually, it feels good to be able to be there. I have three kids, three children, and although I parent the oldest the most, everything happens for a reason, and at least I know she is receptive because she has a need, but she's receptive also in her ever evolving state, I'll say. She has two children, and I definitely want to be there for her, and I'm glad that she is open because you don't know everything. You don't know what you don't know, and you only know obviously what you know. So when you have another resource and you tap into that resource, whether it's monetarily, psychologically, and you feel comfortable and you get sound and a sound investment poured into you, from my perspective, I feel good that I'm able to give that and it's genuine. And I'm thinking from her perspective, because of the kind of conversations we have and the length of the conversations, she gets it and she's getting it. So I'm grateful, to be the type of father. Now, when the other two, I guess when they're ready, they'll come around. But I'm just grateful that I can still be a dad, still be a father to one who has a need.
That's right. Well said. I was talking to a friend of mine, and I told him the greatest feeling I have is when my kids call me for advice. I can't put a price tag on that. I absolutely cannot put a price tag on that. I have three daughters,
yes, sir.
25, 21, and 20.
Yeah, whoa,
yeah, 25,
man.
21, and 20.
I thought you were a kid,
you see
man.
This is not by choice. And I appreciate that, though. Thank you, man.
Well, I mean, when I say kid, I mean like I figured you was in your 20s, late 20s, maybe 30s.
I appreciate that.
Wow.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you, man. Thank you, man. When my daughters call me and they say, "Dad, I need advice. I have a question." I tell you, I melt because I didn't have that growing up. The one of the reasons why I really like the term "our father," HOUR, is because I didn't know my dad. I met him late in his life before he passed, but I didn't know him. I didn't build a relationship with him. And when I met him, and when we finally had a chance to really communicate, he was pretty much on his deathbed. He was dying. And so many times, fathers wait till they can't move to be available. They wait till they can no longer walk to be accessible. And that's sad. I think we don't want to wait until we can't walk or we can't move or we're no longer mobile to now be able to be still where our kids can touch us and have a conversation with us. Because then it's not by choice.
Right.
We have to value the time and moments that are available before there are no more time available left to take advantage of. And a quick story, before he passed, he was in the hospital, and he was in really bad. He had a lot going on, and he began to kind of get out of it. His health was getting a little bit better, and they moved him to a VA hospital. And so when they moved him to the VA hospital, he was actually going through rehab. And I never forget, I had just that was the first time I started my first business before I started my second business. And so I had spent a lot of time in the hospital with him. And finally, when I knew he had moved over to the VA hospital, I said, okay, now's the time to kind of get back and go about my business, kind of get back on track again. So, but my wife at the time, she kept saying, have you talked to your dad? You need to talk to your dad. I said, I'm gonna call him. He's okay now. He's in the VA hospital. Things a little bit better. So I'll call him in a little bit. Another day will go by. She'll ask me the same thing. Have you called your dad? I was like, no, I'm gonna call him. And it kept going on for about 4 or 5 days. And finally, she stopped asking me. And she just handed me the phone. And she said, call your dad. You need to call your dad right now. So I called my dad. And we get on the phone. And we had the best conversation we ever had in our entire life. Matter of fact, probably one of the only conversations we ever had. And that at that very moment, he began to show contrition. He began to show great remorse for what he didn't do as a father. Right. And the first thing came out of his mouth, he was like, it's a new day. It's a new beginning. From this day forward, we're going to start all over. Right. He's like, starting today, it's just going to be me and you. When we get out when I get out of this hospital, we're going to start all over. We're going to start a whole new life. I'm going to make up for all the things we never did. So I'm really excited. That's the greatest thing you'd ever hear, right?
Yes.
And so I get off the phone and I remember going to my wife. I said, for the very first time, I feel like I have my dad. That's the first thing I said. And about 4 hours later, I get a phone call. And it's from my brother. And he says, are you sitting down? I'm like, no, but what's up? He's like, you might want to sit down. I'm like, what? He was like, Pop just died. I'm like, what? He was like, he just died. I'm like, but I was just on the phone with him like 3 or 4 hours ago and he sounded great. He was like, you were on the phone with him? I'm like, yeah, we were on the phone. We were talking. He was doing great. And he was like, no, he's dead. And I thought about that. And that changed my life. That this was a person who at that point, he felt like, I have time. I have the time now. I'm going to take advantage of the time I have left to be a father. But it turned out he didn't have any more time left. And it just shows you how we have to cherish those moments. We have to make ourselves available to our kids. We have to make ourselves accessible. When my grandfather passed away, I was torn to pieces. I was like in a cave for over a week because I was raised by my grandfather. He taught me everything. Right. He taught me everything I know. When my father passed, I didn't really know how to act. Sharing the story, I was sad but I didn't really feel anything because he never poured anything into me. We never built the bond. We never built the relationship. So it's hard to grieve over someone that you didn't really know. Of course, I'm sad, but I wasn't, I felt nothing close to how I felt when I lost my grandfather because of what he poured into me. And what I see so many times is that you have so many kids running away from their father's legacy, so to speak, or name, so to speak, because they don't see any value in that name. You and I had a great conversation a while ago. We were talking about the importance of a name, and what I mean by this is that it's not necessarily the name itself. It's the relationship tied to the name. It's the fact that my kids are proud to be a Jones, not because of what Jones came from, but because that ties them to their father, who they love and who they cherish. It's not, it's no different. It doesn't matter if my last name was Jones or Matumbo or whatever it is. That gives them a connection to their father, to who I am, because they know that, that's my dad. I'm a Jones, not because of the name, but the person. You know what I mean?
Because of you, the individual.
Exactly. The individual.
I relate to what you're sharing so deeply and intrinsically as truth, because I always tell my kids, ask me, tell me. And I told my daughters a couple of months ago, I said, listen, I'm not going to always be here. And they know about my health challenges and things of that nature. I said, look, if there's anything you guys want to ask me, and they have different mothers, it's just that if there's anything you guys want to ask me down. Don't wait until something happens, or, I want you guys to just know whatever you need to know. And my daughter says, Dad, I'm glad you said that, because I always felt that maybe you favored, once my sister over me and vice versa and all that kind of thing. And it was a great opportunity to clear the air, to let them both know where they stand, and the fact that they're all mutually important,
That's right.
And my relationship with their mothers is one thing, which is not very consequential to me, but I try to keep it cordial. My relationship with them is essential. That's just how it is. Right. And I told my son, even, I said, look, why don't you ever ask me for anything? And he told me, he said, because Dad, you told me when I was little that you have to learn how to get things on your own. And it broke my heart. But at the same time, I had to tell him, I said, son, you were a child then. I wasn't talking about don't ever ask me for anything. You're my son. So we both laughed because he's so much like me, but he took that statement to heart as if I was saying, don't ask me for anything. And he tries, like me, he tries to fend for himself.
Yeah.
So I know he'll only ask if he really needs it.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
Why you take me there, man?
Yeah.
Well, you should know better when Askia gets on. He's going to take you there.
Good stuff, though. Really good stuff.
Well, it's really important. And one of the things, one of my regulars that's on my podcast, he said many years ago, and I think it's very important in this conversation piece, he said a very short statement, very powerful statement saying, time never lost a fight.
So true.
So what both of you are sharing about, especially with fathers, it's time, and we have to realize fathers on average don't live as long as mothers.
Yeah.
When you get to, go ahead.
No, I was just saying is, just to add to that, one of my closest friends, he said something to me so profound. When his father, we were talking, and we were just kind of sharing our past relationships with about our dads, and he actually had a great relationship with his dad. He and his dad were like brothers. They were extremely close. They kind of had that movie, father-son life, which is a very cinematic type life. And I asked him, I said, what do you miss the most that that your father's no longer here? And he said, advice.
Wow.
He said advice,
Wow.
and he said
That's powerful.
that was very powerful, and it was so powerful that it kind of it kind of hit me because I didn't have any of that. I don't have I can't most of the things I say, people call me an old soul because about 90% of the things I quote is from my grandfather. You know what I mean? And so, but the beautiful thing about that is this though, is that what he said is so profound, because what we don't understand as fathers is that when we pour into our children's lives, we continue to live through them. Because what happens is when they go through certain adverse situations in life, when they go through things in their life, what they're going to pull on is what Sir Charles told his daughter one day. She's going to pull on, she's going to pull that out one day and say, you know what? I'm dealing with X, Y, and Z. And I remember having this conversation one day. This is how my dad would have handled it. This is what he taught me. So we begin to live on through the decisions that they make because of the connection and the relationship we were able to build with them. And that's why that advice is so important. And that's why that time is so important. I remember talking to my my god brother. He just had a baby. And he said, what are the things I need to do, man? I'm nervous. I'm a dad, man. And I said, it's just 4 things you need to do. Be accessible, be accountable, be aspirational, and follow all that up with action. I said, if you can do those things, you'll be fine.
Wow.
That's strong. I wanted to encourage you, although it may be not needed, when you just shared a few moments ago that your dad said it's a new day.
Mm-hmm.
My thought, my takeaway was that his spirit is watching over you, even though he didn't share certain things with you, even though those precious father-son moments may have escaped you to some degree. He found comfort in those last hours, perhaps days,
he did,
or weeks, that a part of him resides within you. Even though your grandfather was the true patriarch, a part of your father was able to hold on to a part of his son. And I think it's a good thing. Probably want to write about that, man. I think that would be a wonderful story.
And let me tell you something. What's so beautiful about what you said, and this is why I really like the title "Our Fathers," because so many times you ever notice we as men, and sometimes just as people, we have a tendency when we want to make something right, we want to wait for that grandiose opportunity to present itself. Like we want everything to line up perfectly. For example, I know I need to do this. I know I need to talk to Dr. Vibe and square this thing up, but I want to wait till I get my money right or get everything lined up and get all my ducks in a row. So everything will be perfect so I can feel good about when I sit there and make things right. And that's what my dad was trying to do. My dad knew a lot of his shortcomings. He knew the things that he didn't do. He was fully aware, but what he tried to do was he had this grandiose idea, and he was building this company, and he wanted to leave this legacy for all his kids. And he thought that if he was able to build that and it was successful, then it will make amends and for all the things that he failed as a dad, when all he really had to do was just be available, and he died trying to get that grandiose thing built. And during that time, he never, ever spent those moments just trying to connect. He thought he could connect through this business that he could leave as a legacy so that would be his, what we would remember him by. But he felt,
man, what you're saying right this very moment resonates so much with where I am as a dad. Now, even though my kids are grown, because in my business as a trainer, speaker, and an author, I travel around the country. I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm speaking, I'm coaching, blah, blah, blah. And most of my motivation is not for me, and it's definitely not the money. yeah, I need the money, and I'm not going to be suckered into thinking you're going to do this for free. You have to respect my business. But most of the reasoning that I do what I do is for my kids and my grandkids. And I tell them, you don't have to do exactly what I'm doing, but take it and do something with it. However, the shortcoming or the con is that I miss out on the quality time with them, which resonates directly with what you're saying. So this thing that in life we have called balance, which I don't know very much about, I have to try to hold on to it so I can at least get a little closer to where I need to be with my children and have an even deeper appreciation, in addition to the advice and the money.
Can't get it back. And that's what we talked about earlier. Because
we'll never get it back.
How that's how we've been raised. We've been raised as men to be providers, to make sure the lights are on, to make sure they have clothes, to make sure they have all these things. And we work tirelessly to do that. But we do it at the expense of the relationship.
Absolutely. I'll tell you a story you can relate to, Askia, and even to you, Dr. Vibe. Growing up as a kid, one of the heroes, I've had a few, but one of my heroes was Evel Knievel. And I like motorcycles. I never owned one, and I've only ridden on a motorcycle maybe once or twice in life. But Evel Knievel said he broke almost every bone in his body at least twice. So more than likely, he's done it more than once. And his son, Robbie Knievel, came up behind his father to also be a daredevil. Now, Robbie was nowhere near as successful as his father. Robbie, wore the same colors and had the same look. But at some point, Robbie became a drug addict. And, so Evel Knievel was being asked in an interview about his son and his family life. And he said, look, I've broken almost every bone in my body at least twice. Now, it would have been great to be a great father, taking my son to the park, playing catch football with him, or I could have decided to be the world's best daredevil, made the money I made, broke records and created records that no one's ever chosen. I chose the first over the latter. Had I chose the latter, you would know. That's a tight spot to be in.
Yeah.
Meaningful, depending on what your thing is, what your venue, your profession, your industry. But at the same time, it was that, I don't know if you call it delicate, it was that balance of family or this success, this world record breaker. And I never forgot that story because I was like, wow, it's so meaningful if you can change the world with your ideals or your profession. But just like Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, many world leaders, in fact, they sacrificed family life for the cause. So many of us may find ourselves aspiring in that same direction.
I
won't
think
say
what
it's right, I won't say it's wrong, but I'll just say aspiring in that same direction.
Watching Evel Knievel. And so I can kind of relate to that story, but I think something my grandfather told me. He said, he said, your name should be an investment to your children. And I didn't get it at first. I didn't understand what he meant. An investment. What do you mean by my name should be an investment? I think what he was saying is that a father should strive to leave a legacy for his children. His goal should be constantly to provide value in his child's life, but never at the expense of the relationship. And that's what happens sometimes. Sometimes it's very easier said than done. It's very
that's easier said than done.
And so I was never
that was
able
a
to
nugget
build
there. That was
my
a
dad
big
before he died, and unfortunately, I never. But the sad part is that I never felt as though I lost anything when he passed away, which is sad. But like I was sharing with you earlier, when my grandfather passed, it left a big hole in my heart. But the beautiful thing is that as time went on, I was able to fill that hole with the knowledge and love that I was able to pull from my grandfathers and my past experiences. And what I mm-hmm.
Askia, let me ask you something. Do you ever find that you have the answer for something that to a large degree, a huge degree,
totally. I know,
you have no
exactly
business understanding?
Exactly yeah. But you know what? It's interesting you said that.
Okay, good.
And it goes back to what I was saying about those deposits. You can't deposit anything into your child if you don't take the time to do it. And so my grandfather deposited so much value in my life that when I'm faced with obstacles, I'm able to withdraw from the deposits that he invested in my life. I can make withdrawals.
Yes.
And see, and that's what we have to do as fathers. That allows you to continue. That's what we were saying earlier. That's what allows you to continue to live on even when you're not here.
Right.
Is when your kid can go to that bank and make those withdrawals that you deposit into their life. You know, when they're dealing with money issues or relationship issues or girls or boy issues, you know, like I was sharing with you, when I asked my friend, what do you miss the most about your dad? He said, advice. He said, every time I have a question, I think about him.
Yeah.
You know, so I know. Yeah.
So valuable, but you can never spend it, right?
You know, I'll just interject a bit, and I can give you well, my father is still alive, and I'll give you a real life example of that advice and wisdom. So I'm looking to get some stuff done in our kitchen. So there's a friend of the family who does these sort of things, and I said to my dad, "Can I get his number, etc.?" He says, "Yeah, give him a call." So I called this gentleman, and I said, "Hey, you know, it's not a big rush, but you know, I'd like to get it done sooner rather than later." 1 day goes by, 2 days go by, 3 days go by. So I call my dad and say, "Hey, what should I do?" He says, "Hey, we got another family friend. Call him up." I said, "Isn't that going to hurt?" The other guy says, "No, well, he took too long." Because especially when you're dealing with friends and family, you don't want to cause any rough edges.
Right.
So even up to 2 hours ago, I called my dad. I said, "So how are things going with the renovation?" He said, "Well, I told the second guy I called is coming over tomorrow." He says, ironically, he was speaking to the first gentleman. He said, he hasn't had a chance to get back to you. And I said, "Dad, like, what should I do?" He says, no, go with the guy is going to come over. You know, just tell the other guy, you know, he never called you back, and just ran into somebody who was willing to do it.
That's right.
Right.
Wisdom.
Yeah. You know, one of my biggest concerns for my, you know, I guess in my family, I know boys develop a little slower than the girls do in certain ways, but I kidded with my son one time and I told him, I said, you know, if you don't do something, I'm going to have to take my name back because he's a junior, you know. So he started laughing, but he is really one of my biggest concerns. I know that he'll get it, whatever his thing is supposed to be. I just would love to see him at least get some of the fruits or some of the drippings. At least if you have a pot of resources, when your time comes, you have something to choose from. My concern is not that he's not doing what I want, but I don't believe he has the resources and he doesn't genuinely display the desire to even have a toolkit. And I'm like, come on, boy, you got to get it, you know, come on. But I can't force him because what's going to happen is he's going to resist. So every now and then, I'll try to drop a nugget or two. Then I leave it, you know, and I say, okay, son, I'll talk to you later. You know, leave it like that. But one of the biggest highlights was about 2 years ago. I reside in the D.C. metropolitan area now. I went to New York. I told him, meet me at Madison Square Garden. We went to Brooklyn to see a Nets game. We stayed in a hotel. Wow. We ate out, man. It was one of the best times we had since he's been a young adult, man.
That's what
great time.
But see, that's what the time does. You know, I feel like I feel like we're not teaching our young men between the difference between an encounter and a relationship. You know, I was sharing earlier with Dr. a while ago, Dr. Bob, working on this book called Planted. And the subtitle to the book is that a selfish act creates an encounter, but a selfless act can establish a relationship. And the reason why that's important because if your father, look at some of the kids that are dealing with abandonment today. A lot of times, some of the kids that are dealing with abandonment is because their father had an encounter with their mom. They didn't have a relationship with their mom. They had an encounter with their mom. And so if you have an encounter with a woman, then it's less likely you're going to have a relationship with that child.
Absolutely.
In most cases, an encounter becomes a regret or a mistake. So if a man regrets the encounter, then he'll regret having the child.
Yep.
Because he feels like, I shouldn't have never did that. And so now, because they never built that relationship, they never understood the importance of accountability, accessibility, those things we talked about, then they looked at that encounter as a regret. And so they see that child, which was the result of that encounter, as a regret. So if a man sees the encounter,
man, you can do some workshops on those 4 A's.
Yeah. So we have too many. All I'm saying is we have too many selfish moments as men. Oh, go ahead, Dr. Vaught.
I agree.
Were you saying something, Dr. Vaught?
No, I fully agree.
Guilty.
With that.
I know when I was very young.
No, I just a very.
I was one of those people when I was very young.
No, okay. You know what? I'm going to do 2 things. First of all, I'm going to read
I was going to say that when
interesting comment, his name back. The name is his, not mine. We have never had a father-son relationship. We are strangers. Wow. You know what I'm going to do? I'm actually going to do a refresh.
Wow. How are you going to do that?
You might want to refresh.
I'm going to refresh. Okay. So I'm going to refresh.
All right. Oh, wow. 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 Yeah. 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 You know, it's funny you said that, and I'm thinking about Sam's comment. And it reminds me of what we said earlier when I was sharing about the relationship I had, a significant role that my grandfather played in my life. And it reminds me, I used to do a lot of mentorship. I want to get back into it. I used to do a lot of mentorship with young boys. And it just reminds me how so many young boys I've spoken to who do not have a relationship with their fathers as a result of feeling abandoned. And in a result of feeling abandoned, many young men have chosen to completely disassociate themselves from their fathers. They see no value in carrying their father's name because their father never made them feel like they were valuable to them. And that's very important. I don't see any value in the name because my father never showed me that I was valuable to him. So why should I see any value? Huh? Yeah, 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 yeah. Is he coming in? Oh no. He said his name has represented hatred, hurt, confusion, and I had to get from under it to live my life and my own identity. There was no way I was gonna continue that name with my legacy and children. And let me tell you why that. First of all, man, my heart go out. Well, it seemed like I would love for him to come in and share it. But what's so important about what Sam, listen to what Sam just said. So what Sam is saying is instead of becoming a caretaker of the father's name and legacy, they run away from it because there was no relationship tied to that or associated to that name. You see, and that's what we were talking about earlier. It's not literally the name that is important, but the relationship and the connection that the child has with his father. That's where the name has value. That's where the name has value, not the name that we got from whoever, but the connection. He could be having a totally different conversation in this blab room if he had a connection with his father. He'd be talking about why he's so proud to carry his father's name. I carry my grandfather's last name. I don't carry my biological father's last name. I carry my grandfather's last name, and I'm extremely proud. Yeah, man. But I appreciate that. I need to, man. I wish if anybody want to come in, we have this is Dr. Vibe show, but I think he's having some technical difficulties. So Sir Charles and I are we're keeping it moving. The recording is still on. I had paused it for a moment. For those that are just coming in, we're talking about the title is Our Father. One Dr. Vibe's epic blab shows, of course. What we're sharing is the term Our Father represents time and the importance of time. And so I see some people. Oh my goodness! I see my sister from another Mr. Angela in the blab room. Haven't seen her in a long time. Hey, lady. So that's what we're talking about. Just talking about the importance of understanding that as dads and as fathers, the greatest thing we can give to our children is our time. The greatest thing we can give to our kids, as we're looking at Father's Day coming up, giving of ourselves. It's not really about. We understand, the importance of providing. We understand the importance of all these things that, we have to do as dads and as fathers and as providers, and making sure that the lights stay on, all these different things. But those things should not come at an expense of the relationship with your children. You can't get so focused in the byproduct. It has to be about the relationship. All those other things are the byproduct of the relationship. At the end of the day, the kids aren't going to remember that the lights cut off. They're going to remember what you did when the lights went off. You know what I mean? Those are the things your kids are going to remember. The conversations you had. I can speak to that. Matter of fact, just saying that, I can remember times growing up with my, with a single mom, and lights went out, and we have the candles and some board games. Those are the things you remember. You're not gonna remember that. All the lights going out isn't the thing that's gonna have you lose your mind. That's not going to be the thing that's going to set you back. You know, so Ricardo, you want to come in? Anybody want to come in? We have an open seat. Again, this is Dr. Vibe show, but yeah, he's been having some difficulty with his computer. So we have Ricardo has a beautiful baby, beautiful family. Absolutely, absolutely beautiful family. And I love that photo he shared on. I love that photo he shared on Facebook with his baby literally taking over the house. You know, stretched out in the car seat, like like what's up. Not that. Yeah, that speaks great volume. Yeah, yeah. Oh wow. So Dr. Vibe is back.
Yes, I am. I don't know how much would. Well, hey, you know what? I look forward to it. I still. Well, I hope you were kind to me while I was away. That's all I hope that you were. But did you this gentleman about the name and his father and his name? That is all. That's deep.
Yeah, very. Yeah, he's gonna try to come in. I think.
Yeah, I really would like him. No, no. One of the things, and with the Our Father, it's a very important concept because I can relate growing up. My dad spent a lot of time well, he worked during the daytime, so he raised a lot, spent a lot of quality time with me when I was growing up. It was the other thing is that my mother worked afternoons, so my father was very important in raising me, and I'm very blessed that he's still alive today. And one of the traditions we do is every Saturday morning around 7 o'clock in the morning, we speak on the phone together, just giving a weekly recap of what's going on during the week and just checking each other up, etc. And it's very, very important. Like those minutes are so variable, so important, because I've come to realize that one of the things that are important to me in my life is that life is made out of moments and decisions. Moments and decisions. And my father is still alive today, and I'm getting a chance, because I told him today, I said, you know what, Dad? One of the reasons why I love you so much is you've lived long enough to tell your story. And I think it's very important in the hours that fathers have, they make sure they tell their story as much as they can to their children and other people's children too, because when you're a father, you're not, you can be a father not only to your own blood but other people's too. Okay, let me just.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, to add to that, you know, Sir Charles says something. I think yeah. Well, you said something earlier, Sir Charles, when you mentioned fruits. You know, you were talking about your son, and you know, and Dr. Vive said something. He said, you know, making sure we're able to tell our story. It's not just telling your story while you're alive. We were on the Blab the other day, and I was sharing we were talking about, you know, one of the things that I looked at with Muhammad Ali, um, was that he proved that when you're dead, you're still alive. But sometimes you're alive, but you're dead. You know what I mean? Like based on the impact you have on society and culture, you can be dead but still alive. You can continue to live, but you could be actually living but be dead. You know what I'm saying? Just because you're living doesn't mean you're alive. And the reason why I say that is because you know, it's not just about telling your story. It's about being available, being accessible, so that, you know, when Sir Charles said the fruits, you know, there's a parable that says we're known by the fruits we bear. But, you know, in the Hebrew, it means you are revealed by the fruits you bear. So what happens is I may not ever meet Sir Charles, but I can learn about him through his children. I can know his story through his children. We become revealed by our kids, by our children. That is part of that legacy. So our fruits tell our story as well. We don't just tell our story, but it continues to move on, and they begin to the next chapter of those stories. They become a sequel, and we have to make sure that that sequel match up, you know. And so, you know, it's not just about telling the story while we're here, but leaving an impact so that the story can continue.
Nice. Makes a lot of sense. Like,
I think Dr. Vibe is still having. Can you see Dr. Vibe?
I'm here. Okay.
Yeah. Can you see him? I don't see him. Okay. 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 He been very it's been very glitchy. I think what I'm gonna do, well, I'll let Dr. Vi make that decision. I was gonna pause the
Okay,
recording.
I'm back.
Um,
It sounds and looks a lot better now. All right. No. Okay, good. Yeah, no, I think that,
okay, great,
and
great, great.
it's a legacy piece, and I love what you said, Askia, that I know that after, and inevitably my father's going to pass away, but I know that he's still going to be strong and alive even when he's gone. He's laid that foundation down in myself, in our other siblings. Like, he named me after him. I have the same name as my dad. And I didn't realize till I got older the significance of that. And I asked him one day, why did he do that? He says, I want you to carry on what I've done. So I'm making sure that I invest minute.
Yeah, yeah. You know, and that's why my heart.
Go ahead.
No, I was saying that's why Sam's story is so important and is so impactful because me having three daughters, 25, 20, and 21. My youngest daughter is named after me. You know, she has the same name I do. And I remember one day we were in a car and she told me, she thanked me, she literally thanked me for naming her after me. She took that as a sense of pride. She was really, she takes that. She loves it when she says I have the same name as my dad. She loves when people say I look just like my dad. She takes a lot, and that's important to me. That's extremely important to me. It's like we were sharing earlier. You know, the greatest thing that the most important thing to me is when my kids ask me for advice. The most important thing is when my kids have a question and they feel like that I'm the well they want to go to for answers or for a source. And we have to be that. But the only way they know that they have that opportunity is when we make ourselves available, when we make ourselves accessible. And I know sometimes we feel like work is important. I know and it is important. But when a father still has to be accessible to his children. This doesn't mean that you can't work hard, but a child must always feel as though that he or she is more important than your work. And the reason for your work is to provide a better way of life. But they can't feel that your work is a priority over them. You know, a father must always have that open door policy, to foster and encourage open and authentic conversations, that may at times be uncomfortable. But a child needs to know that if they have a question, their father's always going to make himself available.
Now, the way I am with my mother, we can talk and have talk about everything.
Yeah. 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 That's it. That's it. Yeah. 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 There's a parable. There's a parable that says, a good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. And a lot of times we think inheritance has to be something monetary, but it doesn't. You know, what are the words you've poured into your children? What are the actions that they can look back on and see how you carried yourself as a father, as a man? When my oldest daughter got married in January, and when she was dating, oh my gosh, I pulled out her two uncles, Smith and Wesson. But I was like, and especially when she got really serious, there's a famous quote that says, "Your actions speak so loud, I can't hear a word you say." And a father's influence can't be just based on words, but it has to also be based on actions. A father has to be a living and walking example of what he wishes his child to be, or what he wishes his daughter to marry. And when my oldest daughter relationship got serious, and I knew it was getting serious, I was like, I was feeling some kind of way. And one day my oldest daughter came to me and she said, "Dad, don't worry about it. I know you've been uncomfortable." And I was like, "Yeah." She said, "But Dad, he's just like you." She said, "Don't worry, he's just like you." And that's exactly what she said. She said, "He's just like you." And what she was telling me was that I feel as though I made a good pick. I made a good choice because of what you taught me, because you were an example. You were for example, when my oldest daughter was in kindergarten, they've always seen me open the door. I always open the door for them. I always open the door for their mom. I do it to this day. And so one day, my oldest daughter, when she was in kindergarten, she came to me one day. She said, "Dad, it's this boy that likes me." I'm like, "What? Boy likes you?" I'm like, "You're in kindergarten. Who is this boy?" She's like, "Dad, don't worry. I don't like him." I'm like, "Well, why don't you like him?" She said, "Because he won't open the door for me." And it's like, I didn't realize how serious that is. This is a 4 or 5 year old girl in kindergarten that says, "I don't like this boy because he won't open the door for me." You don't know the rules of engagement. You know what I'm saying? Dude, when my daughters were dating, no boy would honk the horn. They knock on the door and they greet me. You don't honk the horn and you don't walk out that door. You're gonna come in the house and you're gonna see me. And I'm watching to see if you're gonna go to the other side and unlock that door. I'm watching you, because I set a standard. And see what happens is, look, when we set a standard, we give our daughters expectations. If we don't set a standard, then what expectations do they have? If you don't have expectations, what do? You settle. If you don't have expectations, you settle because you don't know anything else. So you settle because you figure this is what I deserve, or this is all that's out there. Exactly. So we have to stop. I know I'm speaking now more from a father with daughters, but we have to stop putting our daughters in situations where they're forced to settle, because we're not giving them any expectation, because we haven't created an expectation with our actions. So now they're forced to go through experiences that reason. I don't agree with that. I don't agree that everything happens for a reason. I think we can learn from everything that happens. I think there can be a lesson in everything that happens, but everything don't happen. For some things just ain't supposed to happen. And a lot of times, because of what we're not creating and what we're not establishing as far as relationship with our children, we're putting them in situations where they're experiencing things that they probably shouldn't have to experience, but they're having to experience it because they never had anyone to give them the proper guidance. So they're forced to go down avenues where they have to get bumps and bruises that they probably would not have had to go get through. For example, you're not going to tell me what the young gentleman is experiencing. He's supposed to be experiencing that. You're not going to convince me of that. There's no way on earth you're going to convince me he's supposed to be saying what he's saying. Now, he's learning from that because he's already identified and say, this is not the type of father I want to be. And I don't want that legacy passed down. I don't want that to be a third generation of this. I want to break this quote unquote generational curse. But you can't convince me that that is what he was supposed to go through, that he was supposed to lack that. Mm. Yeah. 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 Dude. Well, that's what we talked about. We talked about accountability. We talked about, I guess, those 4 A's: accessibility, accountability, aspiration, and action. And accountability, I used to always tell my daughters that I don't expect you to be perfect. I just expect you to be accountable. We're going to make mistakes. We're going to do things we probably shouldn't have done. We're going to hurt people unintentionally at times. We're going to say things we want to wish we could take those words back. But you got to make it right. You got to take ownership. You got to correct those things. What? Oh my gosh! Look, man, it's not about being perfect. It's about being accountable. We all make mistakes. We all say or do things that we wish we could take back or erase.
I want.
But if we take accountability for our action.
No, I just want to, and I know it sounds like my audio is not the greatest, so I'm going to just jump in quickly though. You mentioned accountability being a father. How important with our father is transparency?
Yeah.
How important is transparency within our father?
I'll let Sir Charles go. Well, I was talking to Dr. Vibe. I had wrote a post. It's called "Showing Love Through a Glass House," and it talked about the importance of when a father demonstrates authenticity. He is building trust, which is a key cornerstone in establishing a relationship. Um, Transparency is very, very important because what happens is when we're not being transparent, we're we're now building, instead of building a constructive relationship with our children, we're focusing on constructive criticism. And so what happens is our children begin to feel more like they're being reviewed than recognized, or um, uh, they're being evaluated instead of being like the gentleman said, like we talked about earlier. If I don't see any value, if I haven't shown you that you're valuable to me, then what value do I see in this name? What value do I see in the name that you've passed down to me? You show me no value. You show me, there's no equity in that name for me. And so I think with transparency is really about, that's where accountability lives, because that's where our children are going to know our truth. They're going to know who we truly are. We can say whatever we want to say. We can say, don't do this, like you said earlier. Don't do that. Don't do what I do. Do what I say. But eventually they're going to do what you do. And so what the transparency does is it shows our children what we really value, our complete truth as it relates to how we truly live and breathe on this earth. I don't want you to, act this way. For example, I can give you a prime example. My cousin, my first cousin, my uncle, straight Rolling Stone. And my cousin grew up watching it. That's all he saw. And it even got to a point as he got older. My uncle would kind of ingratiate him in that lifestyle where he would go do certain things and he would take his son with him when he's at that other lady's house, or doing X, Y, and Z. And even though he knew better, he knew because he loved his mom. He knew what his dad was doing was wrong, but he loved his dad. He revered his dad. His dad was a good father to him. His dad spent time with him. When I went through my my divorce, the first thing I did was I sat my daughters down and I told them, I said, if there's anything I've done or said that will prevent you from having a healthy relationship with a man, tell me now and I'll make it right. I said, I do not want anything I've done to make it an excuse for you to tolerate something you should not tolerate. Well, my dad was a good guy, but I know my husband cheats on me and, he's abusive, but my dad did the same thing. And he was a good dad. So I guess that's what good guys do. No, that's not what good guys do. That's not what fathers do. But if we can be a good father, but we can still show bad behavior. We can be and what happens is they will allow themselves to tolerate that in their relationship because my dad was a good dad, but he did this too. So I guess I can deal with it because my mom dealt with it. And I wanted my kids to know that if there's anything that you see me do, you've heard me say, that you're going to accept in a relationship, tell me, because it's unacceptable. And I don't want to be the reason why you are in a relationship where you're not being treated like the woman or the queen you're supposed to be treated. I won't be that excuse. If you decide you want to tolerate that, if you decide you want to accept that behavior, I hope you don't, but I can't do anything about it. But it will not be because you saw your dad do it. And that's why transparency is so important.
Right. Yeah, I see transparency also as sort of the building blocks to
Yeah. Yeah. No, dude. Very key. All right, man. Great having you, man. Great conversation, man.
Okay, Sam is coming in. Is my audio any better?
It's off and on, man. You've kind of been, in and out pretty much.
I'm not coming in a lot in the conversation because the audio's so bad. So I'm just basically sitting back and here comes Sam. So Askia, you take the conversation, you drive it. I'll just come in every once in a while. Hey Sam, what's up?
Hey Sam, how you doing, man?
Can you hear me okay? Because I know y'all having audio problems.
I know you were sharing. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So what would you like to share, man?
I think I already shared it. I mean, gosh, I don't even know what to say at this point. Yeah, basically, like the name change thing, I had to do it. It was something that, man, I struggled with that ever since I was small. I never liked the name, like from the beginning, just what it represented. And, now that I'm in my 30s, I decided like at the first of the year, I was like, yeah, man, I got to get rid of this because I just didn't like it. And even though people, they were saying, hey, we really like your name. Don't change it too far to something really weird to where, we won't recognize you or whatever. But it's like, it was like, at least keep it something with an S, change it to Sean or Seth or something like that. But I was like, I don't know what it's going to be, but like, it wasn't as expensive as I thought it was going to be to do it. But it was like something for me. I said, yeah, I got to do it. And I hadn't talked to my, well, I can't really call him father, but the other Sam, I hadn't talked to him in like years, and I think we did try to, try to go at this father-son thing. He was like, it's been too much that's already happened.
He's frozen.
Yeah, Blab has been glitchy, man. It's been a real glitchy Blab tonight.
Yeah, and I'm disappointed because this is a very important conversation.
Yeah, you might want to bump him and let him come back in.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do that.
Sam, he's gonna bump you and let you come back in, man.
Well, I love Angela L. Montanez. I thank you so much. Must do it again another day as well. We appreciate that support. That's very important. Like we aim to do this conversation based on Father's Day, but if you're feeling that we need to continue the conversation, that's what we're here for.
Yeah, it's been a great talk. Even with all the disruptions, man, it's been a great talk.
I think
Sorry about that, Sam. Man. Let me ask Sam a question. I know Sam, he doesn't look like he's in his 30s, but he says he's in his 30s. So, but hey man, so my sis, Angela, Sam, you mentioned, man, that you're in your 30s and you decided to to do this name change. We always use this term. It was the feather on the camel's back, right? It was that one last thing that just said, okay, this is it. What was that thing that said, okay?
Gosh, I think
I'm changing my name.
What it was, my cousin was like, I think you need to talk to your dad and stuff like that, because he had like a heart attack or something like that. So I was like, oh, okay. So tried to talk to him, really tried to make a go at this, father-son thing. And he was just like, well, too much has gone by and stuff. It was like learning someone from the beginning, because even when I talked to him and we sat there and we talked, it was just like, it's almost like you were on a date or something, because it was like, I was like, man, I don't even know what your favorite color is. I don't know what you're allergic to. And I said, I tried my entire life trying not to be like someone that I didn't even know. And you know how hard that is? It's like, so when he said, well, maybe since we can't be father and son, it's too late, in both of our lives. Why don't we just be friends? And when he said that, I was like, just be friends.
Wow.
Like go out, catch a game together, drink a couple of beers. So at that point, I was just like, you know what, dude? I said, let me get this off my chest and stuff like that. And I think he was trying to talk to me so he could get this he didn't die, but it was one of those things. I guess he was trying to get his soul right or whatever with me. And I guess he wanted my blessings for his next passage or something. I was like, I don't want to be a hard ass and say, I don't want to give you that because you're like on your deathbed or something like that. Because I said, I don't want to have to deal with that. But I said, if you were to go right now, I said, I wouldn't feel anything, to be honest, because I don't know you. But, he made it through. And then after that, I was like, man, I never wanted this name because it's just like, there was never any thought given to it because it's like, you weren't even there like when I was born. So I just, by default, it was like, okay, we'll just call him a junior, So you didn't even think enough to have consideration to say, hey, let me name, my first, son. So I was like, man, forget it. This is your name. This was never my name. So I had to disassociate myself from it, So I know later on to decide in your life that you want to do a name change, I said, hey, I don't care how much it costs, what it is. I'll pick out a name, whatever it got to be. And that'll be it. And I chose, I was like, I was not going to name my sons that whole going to the junior, to the second, to the third and fourth. Nah, that wasn't it. That wasn't going to happen. I thought long and hard when it came to what their names would be. So they would know that someone actually cared, that they would have a legacy that they would want to pass on. Now if they decide to change their names, that's up to them, but I doubt that they will. But for me, I was like, that was never my name. So I walked around pretty much with like, I should have just signed my name as an X because you didn't even name me. You know what I'm saying?
And Sam,
so put an X there.
What's so interesting about that is, you missed the earlier part of the blab, but I was sharing that when Sir Charles and Dr. Vibe and I was talking that I had a similar situation. I met my dad. I was in my mid to late 20s when I met my dad, and he was on his deathbed when I met him. And so my brothers on my father's side, we began to build a relationship. And the first thing they said was, you need to change your last name, because at the time I was the youngest boy, and they were like, everybody had girls. And it was like, man, if you have a son, we can keep the Allen name going. And the first thing I told him, I was like, I have no desire in changing my name. I said, why would I change my name to a complete stranger last name? I said, I carry my grandfather's last name, who I'm extremely proud of. In matter of fact, my grandfather used to always tell me, respect the name. He always told me that. My grandfather used to always tell me, respect the name. And we were saying earlier, he used to always tell me, your name is an investment. Your name can either be an asset or a liability. Let me give you an example. I had a really good friend of mine. She was going through a really bad situation where she needed legal assistance. And she stayed in a smaller town, and she was recommended to contact this lawyer, contact this attorney. She contacts the attorney. And when she tells the attorney who she is, she's like, okay. And she began to ask questions. And so it came up who her dad was. As soon as she told the lady who her dad was, the lady hung up the phone on her. And so that shows you how important. That's why I kept saying your name has to be an investment. We can't live a life where we're causing our children, because of what we've done, not to be able to live a productive, fruitful life because of our discretions. And not only that, when we're doing things, and that's what we were saying earlier, Dr. Vibe, there's a complete difference between an encounter and a relationship. With young men today, they're finding time, but it's selfish time. They're not finding time to build relationships. They're more focused on creating all these encounters. And what happens is when they have these encounters, then if a child is a result of that encounter, they look at the child not as a gift, but they say, man, I didn't know this woman. I didn't build a relationship with her. So the guy regrets the encounter. Well, you regret the encounter. You regret the result of the encounter, which becomes the child. And so now the child begins to grow up, and they begin to deal with abandonment issues. They begin to deal with these things because the father never even took the accountability to be able to say, you know what, even though this was an encounter, I still have to man up and take care of this child. they totally disassociate themselves from the entire experience. The entire experience, even the child, which is the result of the experience. And I used to deal with that so much when I used to mentor young boys, because a lot of these guys would always say, man, they would say words that I can't even say when identifying who their dad is. They were running away from the name instead of running to it. There was no value, no equity in that name at all, because again, if the father never shows any value to that child, never shows that child that you're valuable to them, then why would a child see any value in that person's name? So what Sam is saying is so paramount, because if I never show my kids that they're valuable to me, then how much value are they going to see in that name that I'm passing down to them? There's no value in that at all.
I agree. And I think that's pretty much how I have to feel. So that's how I feel about it. So I was like, I got to get from under this name and stuff. And like I said, I always thought about that for years and years and years. But I just decided to say, hey, just do it. If this is going to make you happy at this point in your life, go ahead and do it, because you've made a success of yourself without him, and stuff. So don't even worry about it. If you want to do it at this time, if you want to change the name to Joe Schmo,
Sam,
go ahead.
now I don't know how good you can hear me.
What are you thinking, Dr. Vod?
No, I'm just saying to Sam, will you get to the point where you're going to take some our father time to share why you change your name to your kids, or have you already done that? Okay, I'm just saying
I'm sorry,
that.
What was the question?
Actually, I'm going to type it in. I'm going to type it. All right. So you guys keep on chatting. I'm going to type it in.
Oh, okay.
He said he's.
Oh, okay. But yeah, so it's like one of those things. Even he was telling me, he was like, oh, I heard I got, grandkids, two little boys and stuff is like that. It's like, I don't bring my kids around them and stuff like that. I mean, you can't jump from being like, trying to jump from being like dad to like grandparents and stuff, because every time, my dad did come around, it was always the police involved and something like that. So it was already really, really bad. So I've only seen him maybe out of, oh my gosh, when I was 6, 9, 18, 24. That's it.
Wow. So I know I know Sir Charles asked the question. He asked you, how are you going to handle the situation? And I think you briefly touched on it. How are you going to handle the situation with your children's name? Are you going to change their name, or are you going to give them? I mean, because if you,
no, well, the last name I can't change. I can only change the first name.
Your first name. Okay. I see what you're saying.
Yeah, the first name and the middle name, because I'm a junior, so I can't change. Like the last name is like, that's mine. But as far as like having his whole full name, that's going away. My kids, they're old enough. I mean, they're 9, so they already know I'm gonna go through it. But so it was like, okay, it was like, I even talked to them. I said, so what do you think my name should be? And they gave me some phrases. So I was like, no, we can't. It was like LeBron's Steph. I was like, no, it could nothing like that. But it's cool, and I realized that I wasn't going to be. Well, I can't say I like him because I don't really know the dude. But I just knew when they came along and stuff like that, it was like, okay, you got to be the very best parent there is. You can't mess up. And if you have questions, talk to your uncles, talk to, other dudes that are older than you, talk to your, my grandfather. He was a little crazy, before he died and stuff with dementia, but whatever I could get out of here, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, that'll work. But you just go for it, man. And it's just like I said, I tried to talk to my mom about it. And I even told him, I said, do you know that when you think, well, I have a younger brother too. I said, do you know that all 4 of us have never, ever been in the same room together? We've never even rode in the same car together, And I was trying to get them together. I said, okay, you're in New York. And I said, she's in Texas. I said, I know I'm going to get a whole lot of, well, I don't want to go. I don't have the money. I said, look, I will pay for either us to go to Texas or to New York, vice versa, because I knew one of the others was going to say they couldn't make it because of money issues. I said, I will pay. And I said, all I want to do is for us to just sit down and just eat together, just to get us together, us four, just together, I said, that'll be so cool because I've never seen you with him and him with her and, us too. So just to see all four of us together would be really cool. But like I say, she told the fence, he reneged, he didn't want to do it. And I was just like, y'all are just, you know what? I was like, man, he just fucked up. I said, forget it. I'm through. I can't do it. And I have a good friend of mine. She was like, you should really try to see if you can, mend things with your dad and stuff like that. And I said, I tried and it didn't happen. It didn't work. So I was like, man, I'm through with that. I'm not going to live the rest of my life trying to get someone to notice me. You do everything possible. It's like this. Okay, well, I'm gonna do the honor roll. Still doesn't get his attention. Okay, you go play sports. Still doesn't get his attention. So then you learn to play an instrument. Still doesn't get his attention. So it's like, what can I do? I don't know what else to do. So at this point, so I was just like, at some point, so I won't be locked in this cage with you. I was like, let's just say, look, one more time, doesn't work out. Hey, maybe next lifetime. So this is where it's got me. And so it's like, so I can be a better parent to my kids. I had to clear my head out. So I was like, I got to flush, this out my head and stuff. So, cause I don't want them walking around like, damn, what's wrong with daddy? Why is he acting crazy and stuff? I was like, I can't do that. So it's one of those things that you think when Father's Day comes around, it's like, wow, you want to try to buy something for your dad and stuff. And I thought last year was going to be the first year I was actually going to be able to get him something. And then I thought about it. I was like, I don't know nothing about this guy. I don't even know what he likes. I could say, okay, let's go out for, a steak dinner and then find out, that he's allergic to asparagus. The man kills over and dies, and then they'll think I killed him or something. So when I say I don't know anything about this guy, I don't even know when his birthday is. I know it's somewhere in February. That's all I know. So I couldn't even send him a birthday card. So
wow.
Yeah, and this is and this.
So basically, it's kind of like, and when we talked about it, I was just like, man, you've gotten a free pass on my entire life, a free pass, to do what you wanted to do with your life. And, you reach out to me when they tell you that, hey, you want to call your next of kin, or, your sister tells you, hey, I think you better try to find your son. I understand, he moved from Texas to California. Now he moved to Georgia and stuff. Maybe you should try to get in contact with him and stuff. So I was just like, so it took for them, cutting your chest open for you to say, hey, you know what? Just in case I don't make it through the night, let me try to get this right. And then I was like, man, and you failed at that. Wow. It's like, he's just a loser. Wow. I don't think I know, all of my friends that I know. I think there's only one dude that has a good relationship with his mom and his dad. And so everybody else is just like, my dad ran out too. I was like, wow. But yeah, that's it. Yeah, it seems, I don't know what happened, but it's just like.
So you're saying amongst your peers?
Yeah, it's the norm. I only know one.
I think he got cut off.
Yeah.
Hey, Dr. Vibe. I think he might have gotten cut off.
I can see him. Let me refresh. I may need to refresh. Hold on.
But this was a great conversation, Dr. Vi. I have to. I'm sorry. Maybe it's just me. I don't see him. Wow, I don't see him. Yeah. Wow, I can't see or hear him.
Yeah, I can hear him now.
Well, I can it.
I probably need to step out and refresh real quick.
Yeah, because we'll start winding it down.
Yeah.
So yeah, step out and refresh. I'll kick. Yeah, we're gonna.
Yeah,
can you hear me? Okay, Sam. Yeah, just really strange tonight. It just things are just like really like when some people are on, it's great, and others Let's see if it's
Tachi,
Askia when he
what's
comes
up,
back on. Hey,
what's
Tachi,
up?
how are you? Okay.
Now, this is,
Can you hear him
this is
okay,
a great,
Sam?
man. This is great, man. You know,
Yeah.
this is really good,
Yeah.
man. And I'm
Well,
glad
and I
Sam
know-
came in. You know, I know that took a lot, man. You know, something like that can't be easy to, you know.
No, man. I mean, it's now that I can talk about it because I got tired of like lying for years. People was like, "Well, where's your dad?" I was like, "Oh, my dad can't do this," or blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And I said, "Man, I'm tired of lying."
You know,
I can't do it no
in my
more.
book, I started out in the title,
Right.
the first chapter. It talks about I said I killed my dad when I was 7 years old, and the reason why I started that way because I wanted people to think, okay, he killed his dad, and when you read, you find out that I killed him by telling everybody he was dead. You know, when I was a kid, so I literally killed him off. You know, because it made it easier for me to deal with abandonment. It made it easier for me to deal with the fact that he wasn't there by me just telling everybody he's dead. Because now I get compassion from people saying, "Oh man, I'm sorry to hear that." Then people feel like, "Okay, I'm the dude without the dad," right? You know what I'm saying? So I know what you mean when you say that. You know, you're tired of lying. You know, you're tired of creating this false, this false world. And so what you do is, you have to one day say, "Hey, it is what it is. This is my life. You know, I gotta move forward. You know, I gotta be a man." And so I applaud you for what you're doing, man. You know, because whatever it takes for you to have clarity and for you to reinvent yourself so you can be the father you want to be to your kids, that's what's most important.
Thanks, man. I agree.
Absolutely. That's I agree 100% on that. I really do. I think that when you want to be an father,
totally, man.
there are moments where
100%.
you have to be bold. And Sam, you've been bold in a very good way. Like just what you have shared tonight has made this conversation, in spite of its technical issues, it's made it because I've never met anyone who's done what you've did.
Nah, first time.
I don't know. Maybe Askia, maybe you have, but I haven't. You know, that's a significant moment. You know, here we are chatting tonight about how important our fathers' names are to us, and you had gone the other, but it just shows, again, getting back to the theme of our father, when fathers don't spend hours with their sons,
it's the greatest
in
thing
this
you can
case,
give,
or daughters, those are the things that can happen.
Fine. Yeah, that's what it's all about. But epic blab as always, man. Epic blab.
Absolutely. Well, you were the star tonight, man. The technical issues.
I think he got a little bit. I think he got all of us.
Much, so I just made sure it happened. But this is.
Oh no, they're just having.
I like this. Your same old is better than. Yeah, so it's okay, Sam. If people want. Okay, the Askia, the Dr. Askia Jones.
Those shoes are too big to fill, man. I can't feel that about you. They're too big.
Oh man. Oh well, you're doing your own stuff, so those shoes are big enough. So it's. I just
want to say one thing before we close.
We're all in this together.
I'm not.
We're all in this together.
I want to say one thing before I close the blab. I'm not cheating because I didn't look over your profile. Sure. But Sam, I'm going to assume we're in the same fraternity because I see a lot of creative stuff going on back there. So are you in the design, branding, graphic design, creative space? See there, I felt.
Yeah. Yes, I'm a graphic designer and a photographer. So
I saw.
Yeah, and so basically, let me say how I actually a lot of not really abandonment issues. I think I started drawing, and that was my way. That was like that's how I would escape. Like when I was really pissed off at the whole thing of your dad said he's come pick you up 8, and then you wait there at 8 in the morning, and 8 turns to 10, 10 turns to noon turns to 3 p.m. You realize at 6 p.m. is like, he's not coming, right? Wow. So all that time, I would just draw, and that's all I did.
Wow.
Amen.
And luckily, I was able to make a living out of it. So cool.
Wow.
So I guess he did do something good, because other than that,
I'll even say this, man.
So I guess I owe him that.
Part of your story. I remember kind of having a conversation with one of my brothers, and I look at, like my dad had 3 other brothers from another relationship, and when I got a chance to meet them, there was a part of me very excited that this guy wasn't in my life for a moment. And what I mean is I saw how they interacted with their wives. I saw how they interacted with their kids. I saw how they spoke to their daughters and how they spoke to their wives. And I was like, wow. And this man was in their life. And sometimes, man, sometimes we become really, really good people for initially bad reasons. And what I mean is sometimes anger can fuel us into becoming our best person, but then we have to get out of that anger and get into a place of forgiveness in order to even elevate even higher and get past that. Because when I first met my dad, I never forget, I'm just going to share this. I was like clinically obese. I was like, oh no, dude, I was like really bad. True story. I was clinically obese. I was the epitome of bad health. I mean, I was like really bad shape, everything. And when I met my dad for the first time, I was in my late 20s. I looked at him and I looked just like him. We looked, from the size, facial features, everything. And I started getting in shape because I didn't want to look like him. True story. Not because it was the healthy thing to do, not because I didn't want to not die of high cholesterol or high blood pressure. I literally did all these good things because I wanted to look nothing like this person. Now, eventually I got past that, but being the polar opposite of him fueled me to be my best person. But sooner or later, we have to elevate ourselves and say, okay, that the hate can't be the fuel. It'll get you so far, but you're going to burn out. And you got to replace that with something else. And it has to start with a level of forgiveness. And that's what I had to do. And that's when I really began to start doing things for the right reason, because I found myself being a really good father to my daughters, not because it was the right thing to do or I was authentically trying to be a good father. It was because I didn't have a good father. And I hated my father. I hated his guts. So I said, my kids won't experience what I experienced. So I'm doing great things. People are looking at it from the outside and saying, man, he's a good dad. Man, he's a good husband. But I'm doing it for the wrong reasons. I'm missing out on the things I should be doing. I'm missing out on those valuable moments with my children and with my kids because it's all about the hatred that I have for this man instead of the love that I have for my kids and the love that I have for my wife. And so sooner or later, you have to refuel that. You have to replace that. And there's nothing wrong where you are right now, dude. There's nothing wrong with that. But just remember, man, don't let that continue to be the fuel to drive you because you're going to burn out. And you got to figure out what's really driving you. And you got to look at your kids and look at your wife and look at those things. And those are the things you got to replace that with.
You know what? He asked me, he was like, he said, do you hate me? I said, no, I don't hate you. I said, that tank is empty. It ran dry a long time ago. I said, at first, wow. Yeah. I said, yeah, I probably would have hunted you down. But but I said, no, that tank has ran empty. And it was like, when they were born, I said, this is a new legacy right here. This is a do-over and do it right this time. So I was just like, okay, cool. And since they were like twins, I said, okay, I say, this is my alpha, and here comes my omega right here, and stuff like that. And I was like, so I kind of incorporated that into their one of them, the oldest son, his middle name is Alpha, and then the other one's his middle name is Omega, and stuff like that. So they'll always have it. That right there, and it let me know things started over. It doesn't have to be that way, and you don't have to deal with that. So, like I said, as far as like hating them, nah, I just don't think we can ever have like a father-son relationship or any type of relationship. So, but that tank, it's empty.
So, wow, I love the alpha and omega for each one of your kids.
Yeah,
that is very cool. That is, that is fantastic. That is really, I think that's
because I told my youngest, I said, since your first name is Paxton and your your middle name is Omega, I said, you kind of have like an athlete's name. You got to really sell that. You gotta really, at Paxton Omega, you gotta, I said, I don't care if you even drop the T. If you just want to go as Paxton Omega, you got to keep that going, But they like their names and stuff, and they're happy. And I'm happy that they liked it because I thought about it before they even got here, and I knew I was just like, I said, Addison, the first one I said his name was Addison, and then Paxton, Paxton is like a fireball. So I was just like, he's all over the place. But I think Addison is he's more tame. But I like that kind of yin and yang that they got because they're twins. So I was like, that's cool.
Nice. Very, very nice.
So I'm counting on you to make that money with that Paxton Omega. You got to run with that.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Well, gentlemen, I think we're going to close it down. It's been a great conversation. Sam, thank you so much. If people want to touch base with you, Sam, how can they touch base with you?
Just on here. Really, just on here. You catch me on here, just hit me up. I'm not new to Blab. I've been on Blab for about a month, so it's cool, and I like the discussions that they have. So a lot of times when I hear the discussions, I'm either driving back home from work, so I'm listening at it in the car. So that's why I couldn't jump on when you guys were saying, "Hey, can you get on?" I was like, "Okay, I'm not home yet, but
it's all right. Hey, don't drive and Blab. It's not good." You're new, and. Well, Askia, thank you for bringing this conversation. It sounds like people want to do it again.
Cool. Yeah. I think it came out well considering, we had a lot of technical issues, but it was a great conversation, man. A lot of good stuff came out of it. I think it was I think it was the right timing too.
Absolutely. Well, you know what? It's always good to get a new member of the family. And Sam, you are part of the family. And thank you so much. And Tatiana, you only caught a thumbnail. It was this. So thank you to feel it was a great conversation. Askia, if people want to touch base with you, how can they do it? Because the platforms are only growing.
Just catch me on Twitter, man. I don't, me. I like to stay under the radar until I'm ready to make my grand opening, man. So I'm chill.
Well, there you go. Well, for myself, you can catch me on Blab. You can catch me on Twitter at DrVibeshow. He's Angela saying you stay under a rock.
That's my sister, man. She knows me very well.
There you go. You can also catch almost every conversation I've done is on. I'll just put the website address here. The Dr. Vibe Show. That's the best place to go if you want to touch base with me or see what I'm up to. You can also catch me at the Good Men Project. I'm the only online conversation that is allowed on that platform. For those who don't know that platform, thegoodmenproject.com. It is one of the most viewed sites in the world for men. They get 3 million unique visitors a month and 5 million page views a month. And I'm the only show that's allowed there on a regular basis. Look who jumps in. Oh, boy. Gerald is just jumping in. You have to probably come in for the after show, Gerald. But I like to say, everyone, thanks for catching the conversation tonight. We may do a quick after show, but the recording part is coming to an end. So as always, I like to say you're blessed and highly favored. You're a magnet for miracles and you're a solution for someone's problem. And I'm going to do a quick promo tomorrow night at 9 p.m. I'm having a conversation with a young gentleman whose mother is white and his father is black. And he just recently wrote a very interesting column about how life has been growing up, because he's still in his youth age. He just wrote an article in the Huffington Post, and he's going to talk about the experience of being from mixed parentage in America at this time. So catch it tomorrow night on the Dr. Vibes Show. As always, you're blessed and highly favored. You're a magnet for miracles, and you're a solution for someone's problem. Thanks to everyone who tuned into the conversation. Big thanks to Angela. Kinte, thank you so much. Sam, thank you so much. Van, thank you so much. Dante, pleasure. Thank you, Cynthia Munns winning. Yes, we're waiting to hear back from John because we want to get both of you back on. Tashiata, big thanks. And Gerald, you just slid in right near the end, so that's a good thing. God bless, peace, well, and keep the faith. Good night.